It's the Growler with PD&Jay, here to analyze for you today. From Growler Bet to Jay's got stats, we hope you enjoyed this episode of the Growler Podcast.
All right. Welcome into the latest edition of PD&Jay here on the Growler. And yeah, you heard the music right. Now, I got to say, Jay Morrison back with me. We actually are reunited. Like the song is meant to be about the Peaches and Herb reunited, which we did when we first started the podcast back together. Like, hey, I think we're coming on. This might be the exact date, Jay, that 2 years ago we brought out the independent version of our podcast and brought it. I think it might be this exact day 2 years ago. So it's only fitting that we welcome you back. I was going to change the music, but I don't need to now. It's too perfect for today. Welcome back, Jay.
Thank you. Yeah, I am quite literally back in black. So I don't have any song lyrics for you, but if it is an anniversary, then this day has double meaning because it's quite literally Marco Wilson Tuesday today, because Marco Wilson turns 27 years old today. So there's another momentum. But yes, it's great to be back. I don't want to get into this too much because I get emotional when I talk about it, but just thank you to everybody for the patience, the support, all that. Let's go.
Love that. The Growl Pals are here with you, but I want to say, first of all, that you had the perfect re-entry back. I played this last week on Who Dey Light because it needed to be in the light section of our podcast. And that was when you came back and we sat and we were all talking and you're like, what do I even, I've been out of it. What do I even ask Duke Tobin? He's going to be up here at the combine. If he says something, he's probably going to say, start it off. What am I going to, and you were like, maybe you just say something that's the most hot button topic you could possibly do. And you opted for, hey, how about this Trey Hendrickson situation? What's going on there? And it was glorious. I have to play it one more time just for those of you that didn't see it on
Are we ready to go here? Jay, it's great seeing you, man. It's great having you back with us. Why don't you get us started? All right, let's have somebody else get us started. Hobson, you got something? I don't throw anything on or off the.
It was great. And Duke playing along perfectly with that. Unquestionably my favorite moment of Combine Week.
It's funny because he didn't answer my question because I said, how would you characterize the conversations you've had with Trey Hendrickson? And he didn't even talk about whether there were conversations. He just said, I don't take anything off the table. But he knew that question was coming at some point. I don't think he expected it to be from me right off the bat. But, I was talking to James on the drive over about thinking he might do that. And I mentioned that to all you guys. And I was trying to think of one that would be funny. And I don't think that question was funny, but his response was what made it. And so it was a great way to kick it off.
But you are back and we have a lot to get to today. It's time. You know what? There was a reason why a couple of years ago we chose this as the moment to kick this podcast back up, because this is the busy season, right? The next 2 months between free agency and running up to the draft, there's a ton to cover. It started yesterday. There was news. Dalton Risner re-signs. The Bengals made the layup. We're going to have Mo Egger in here joining us again today. We're going to give him a chance to maybe bring out his props again. I don't know if the mini hoop's going to come back out. I certainly hope so. But we're also, free agency is right around the corner. I mean, this time next week, the opening of the legal tampering window will have been in full effect. It's next Monday at noon. It all kicks off. And so we've got a lot to get to. Charlie and I did free agent fits and went through some tape. We introduced you to Gridiron Grading, who's going to be part of our analytics draft segment all through draft season, which we're super excited about. All of that's up there. Go check out that episode if you want. But we're going to do a Bengals free agent draft. We're going to try to be realistic. But look, Jay, if I know you, and I definitely know Mo, we're going to break some rules.
Yes, have to.
But we can't sit here and just go by and say who can get closest. But we're going to do that too. A good chance for us to talk through, I think, where the Bengals heads are at as they enter free agency and try to help you guys understanding that and maybe eventually make us look good. But yeah, we're going to bring you some stuff from Dalton Risner yesterday, who was awesome with the media. One of the better. If you want a full press conference, that's like, this is what news conferences are supposed to be about. Great insight into Dalton and his process. I think you would enjoy it if you wanted to go listen to the full thing, but we'll bring you a couple of clips, talk about the offensive line situation and all of that. We will discuss the tag deadline as we're recording this on Tuesday morning. You always have to timestamp every podcast in free agency because it can change in a heartbeat. But we do, have the tag deadline for Trey Hendrickson is today at 4:00. We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about some international games, maybe other moves to expect. Jay will, of course, have stats. I've been like a lost puppy without stats in my life to keep me centered. And so I know you'll have some stats for me. We'll do maybe some A.R.B.I.E.S with actual A.R.B.I.E.S that I'm excited about. So lots and lots for us to get to, Jay.
You mentioned the stats because I had one I wanted to look up, and you're like, oh, I already looked that up. And I don't know if you're going to bring it on the show today, if you're saving it for an article, but it was an amazing stat. And so I maybe been a little lost without my stats, but that one was great when I mentioned it in the media room yesterday, and you blew my mind with it.
It's like, you know this, Jay, where you have a stat so good you have to triple check it.
Yeah.
Right. Be like, when you do the double check that you've got a great one, and when you do the triple check, it's like, okay, this needs to be a whole story based around it. But yeah, so we'll have more on that as we go forward. Let's start though with Dalton Risner, who is back with the Bengals on a 1-year up to $5 million deal. He signs yesterday. Apparently knew it for 48 hours. And said it was one of the hardest secrets to keep. And then his wife, Whitney, didn't keep it. Adam Scheftered it for everybody and put it out there, which we certainly appreciated. But yeah, Dalton Risner is back. The Bengals make the layup. What was your initial reaction to yesterday in that news, Jay?
I thought it was more than a layup to go with what Mo was talking about, because yes, bringing him back made all the sense in the world, but we've seen them. I mean, timing was a big issue last year, and the fact that they got it done a week before free agency started. I mean, I know he said that he wanted to come here, he didn't want to test his market, but if they get to Monday and then somebody throws a crazy number at him, that may change his mind. And so I thought it was really significant that the fact that they got it done a week before free agency, just get that behind them. I am curious. This would be a good stat. What is the lowest AAV for a press conference in Bengals history? Because 1 year, $5 million typically wouldn't be a press conference guy, but Dalton's personality and how big this spot was to shore up that offensive line, it made it a no-brainer to put him up there. And I'm sure the Bengals got all kinds of goodwill out of it. Number one, for making the move, and number two, for putting that guy front-facing as a member of your organization. Just a terrific press conference, and 20 minutes, and it just never felt like it was getting old and stale, and just really enjoyable. My first day back at the stadium. I know I was in Indy last week, but that's the first time going back to the stadium since mid-December, and a very enjoyable day.
Yeah, you know what? Risner, I think he just ended up this perfect fit for whatever reason. Like, the fans took to him. Certainly the building took to him. And then, but really this to me was so much about, there was just some kind of chemistry, man, with Mims and Karras, where it just, and really the whole group, but specifically them. And here's Dalton Risner talking about this process. And then I sort of asked him specifically about just that unique chemistry that he was able to immediately find in the offensive line room.
I'm just super overwhelmed, man, with gratitude and thankfulness to come back here, especially with the ups and downs of last season. After the season, I told everyone this is where I wanted to be. So when it came to this process, of course, it did take a little bit of time. The Bengals and myself, I think, were proactive in getting this deal done ever since the season ended. But it got to a point for me where I started putting pressure on my agent. I got one of the best agents in the world in Drew Rosenhaus, but I truly did mean what I said. I didn't really care to hit free agency and see if someone wanted to sign me to a 2 or 3 year deal or maybe pay me more cash per year. I wanted to be a Cincinnati Bengal, and it got to a point where we were so close in terms that it was time to get a deal done. So the Bengals did a lot of compromising, and I did a lot of compromising, and we came to a middle point, to a middle ground to sign the deal, and I was so thankful for that. I got to give Duke Tobin a hug today, Mike Brown, Katie, I mean, on and on, Steven, so many people upstairs that I'm thankful for, but this process was just so much different because I've never felt this way about an organization. I've never truly just wanted to be back and not even test my market. I'm at the point in my career where this is where I'm going to be my best with Scott Peters and Joe Burrow and Ted Karras and A.R.B.I.E.S Mims, and I didn't really care about the logistics side of it. This is where I want to be.
What was it about this offensive line room that just fit you?
Yeah, it's a great question. I truly feel like I've never been seen or valued like I have here. And I think that started in the offensive line room, and that started with Ted Karras. Ted Karras is Cincinnati Bengals through and through. It's crazy. I've never been a guy to look up to very many people. And I've truly always just said, like, Jesus is, like, the only person I've ever, like, truly looked up to. But I look up to Ted in a lot of ways. And Ted opened the door and put his arms wide open and said, like we take you as you are. And it made it to where I could just come in here and be exactly who I was. And then Orlando Brown, I think, was getting interviewed by one of you, and someone asked him about me. And he just said, "Oh, this guy's a dog. Like, we need him. He's going to help us win games." And I never talked to these guys. And they're speaking so highly of me, and they're the centerfolds of this football team. And I don't know what I did to deserve that, but really grateful that they did. And I think that because of the way they opened their arms and accepted me, it allowed me to come in here and just focus on being exactly who I was.
There it is. Dalton Risner, who wants to just give a big hug and loving embrace and never let go to Ted Karras. But and you heard, we talked about the public pleas after the season from Mims, from Karras, from Orlando Brown, from coaches about the importance of Dalton, the connection that they found. And it's just rare when you can find that. And then both sides seem to want that so much. A guy that's felt the journey a lot in recent years wanted to feel a little more settled in a place where he'd been around and felt happy. And like he said, felt seen here, unlike any place he'd ever been. That just goes a long way. I think the longer you've been in this league, him entering year 8, to understand the importance of that, and obviously motivated by that, and the Bengals were as well.
Yeah, and Burrow too. I mean, he talked about how Burrow kept checking in with him and texting him, and they weren't having these back and forth conversations, but the fact that Joe Burrow wanted him here and was checking in, how's it going? And that was a big deal. And so I've got a little bit of stats and a little bit of trivia combination here.
Love it.
So when do you think the last time was that the Bengals started the same 5 offensive linemen in the season finale and then the following season opener?
Wow. I mean, I know it hasn't been. I went back, and we know that this is the first time they've had the same main starting 5 back-to-back seasons now since Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor have been here. Mm-hmm. So I would think you'd probably have to go back to the good old days, maybe with the Russ, Witt, Zeitler, 14 to 15, Andre Smith. But I don't know, there could have been injuries at the end of the season. So that's the last time it felt consistent, was when you were back in that run.
Yeah, and there were injuries, and this hasn't happened yet. Obviously, all 5 of these guys have to get through camp and get to the starting lineup on opening day. But you actually have to go farther than that. It was the final year from 2009 to 2010.
Wow. That's a bad
trivia
omen.
part of it is, can you name the 5? The starters were Witt and Dennis Rowland were the tackles.
Oh, the tall man.
Tall drink of water.
Tall drink of water.
Bobby Williams and Nate Livings were the guards, and Kyle Cook was the center.
Oh, Cooker. Yeah, got to remember that. How about that? And so that was from 09 to 10. Again, not a great omen. But maybe things will be different. I think there's something to the continuity with this group where the chemistry just kind of feels a little better. Here, and also the results were better, which is really important to remember. I mean, it's not like this is just about Dalton Risner coming back, and he played really well. He was, if you go by PFF grades, they're top in pass blocking grade, but like the total results, I was going through some of these in my story yesterday, but if you look at the final 9 games of the season, those 9 weeks, they were second in the NFL in pressure rate allowed, 6th in sack percentage, while also 4th in rushing success percentage. They were efficient running the ball. They weren't giving up negatives in the running game. They weren't giving up sacks. They weren't giving up pressures. And it was kind of that group. Once Dylan settled in at left guard and Dalton ended up settling in at right guard, it was just like when everything just snaps into place. You're like, there it is, right? They just sort of seem to find something. And I think Joe Burrow being like, hey, deal done. What's up with the deal? How's it going? Were you in there? We're going to get this done, is the sign of Burrow knows.
Yeah.
That he's never had that before. And in the second half of the season, he said it in press conferences down the stretch, like he never really has felt as good about the offensive line as he did the second half of this season. And so to know you're bringing that back along with all of the weapons, how long, Jay, have we been saying this? If they could just feel some confidence in the offensive line, what this offense could be. Well, here you go. You've got all the pieces now in place. They made it happen. Everybody seems excited about being there, and they can go do something great. Here is Dan Pitcher from last week in the Combine asked about the improvement in the offensive line room.
I think you saw really, really good growth from our young players. A.R.B.I.S, Dylan, Dalton, obviously, I thought he played really well for us. Ted's still playing excellent football. Orlando played well. So, yeah, we're happy with where we're at there. We made some major strides in that area. That doesn't mean there's not more work to do, because there is, but really pleased with the culture that we've established in that room, the types of guys we have in there, guys who are coming into their own, young players who we brought here for a reason because we had vision for them, and you're starting to see that vision come to fruition. That's a big deal, and they should feel confidence from that, and we should feel confidence as an organization as long as we continue to put the work in to make sure we stay on that trajectory.
If there's a silver lining from some of the nastiness of last year, it's that they did seem to come a long way in creating the offensive line room that they wanted.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people just expect when there's changes for it to just take right away. And you're what you said about it clicked and it just snapped in. Those things do take a while. You got a first-year O-line coach in Scott Peters, rookie in Fairchild. Risner's new to the team. There were some changes with Jalen Rivers in and out, and sometimes those things take time. And now here you've got Mims and Fairchild definitely ascending, getting closer, not closer, but moving into their primes and really with a chance to be really special offensive linemen. Risner's probably on the back 9. Ted and Orlando are probably on 18, maybe 17. But this year they can be a really good offensive line. And as you said, the weapons are around them. You get the defense playing a little better, and you're not just going back late in games and just having to go and throw all the time and play catch up. I really think that it's kind of the same with the defense, where you saw some improvement over the second half of the season, and it just took time. And the guys they have back, the fact that they kind of figured some things out, I think there should be people still have this narrative that the Bengals offensive line is terrible. It's going to forever be terrible. And that those are the people that just aren't really paying attention, because this thing is really on the rise.
It is. And Dalton's just a great story. And, last year he was in the off season sitting around. Nobody wanted him. No one was signing him. He ends up settling for a veteran minimum deal right before the season starts. He talked about, being in this field and working out in his own basement and working in this field where dogs are pooping nearby to try to keep himself ready to go and all that stuff. And next thing you know, he's in the dog pound. Dog poop to dog pound, right? You can see the headlines. And he's working and waiting for a chance. And then week 2 he gets benched to end up here. I just thought his gratitude yesterday of the journey for him. This is the biggest contract he's ever gotten for in terms of average annual value. You really felt that so much. Again, I implore people to go and listen to the whole thing if you want to get a true taste of Dalton. But you asked a great question, Jay, that really elicited a great answer. Here's Dalton Risner. This was about 14 minutes into yesterday's press conference.
You mentioned the Jacksonville game a couple times.
Yeah.
The day after that, you were really raw, really honest about missing the block that got Joe hurt.
Yeah.
Wondering, how long did that stick with you? Did you flush it, or did it motivate you the rest of the season? Was it something you continued to think about?
I'll always remember it. I'm never going to forget about it, but I flushed it for sure. And I've always been a guy that's going to be real. Let's just call it for what it is, man. We live in a world where we all try to be perfect and we all try to have it all put together all the time, and no one wants to admit their mistakes. And I'd rather do the opposite. I'd rather just be exactly who I am and call it for what it is. Because when I do good, or when I sign a deal like today, I want to celebrate it and call it for what it is. But when I don't do my job, the job that I was called to do, let's just handle it. You know what I mean? I'm not scared of it. I'm not scared of controversy. I'm not scared of conflict. I'm not scared of failing, because football isn't what's most important to me. My faith in Jesus and where I'm going after this life is far more important than the game of football. So I'm not scared to admit that I missed a block, because that doesn't define me. But if we call it for what it is, it was a big deal and it was really hard. And I just felt like in that moment, if my future kid is watching me, I think about that all the time, or my wife is watching me, I would rather them look at me and be a man and say, I can own my mistakes and I can move forward and I can do my job the best I can and accept it for what it is, rather than being someone that makes excuses. I think excuses are the worst. So it was tough. And in moments like that, you look at yourself in the mirror and say, what the heck? Like, this isn't what I thought I had planned for this season. But you have two choices, like I've been saying all morning. And I made the choice to bite down and flush it and say, it's one block, it's one play. Could have happened to anybody. Let's move forward. Let's have a great rest of the season. And you saw how I played the rest of the year. You saw how we came together as an offensive line. And I think I just got to give credit to all the people that believed in me and gave me a shot moving forward from that.
He's talking about celebrating there, and he was asked at the end, so how do you celebrate a day like this? And he said, the way we celebrate is go win a Super Bowl, bro. And I was like, I also was struck by, he was just kind of talking through what Burrow's message was when he finally did FaceTime with him yesterday. And Burrow said, this is going to be our year, and I just think when you hear that's the type of things that Joe is saying and feeling right now, and not that he wouldn't, but just that it just struck me a little bit, those two things together, of the build and the tension and anticipation with this team right now, even in these early stages of the offseason.
Another quick stat, I did count it up. There were 6 bros in that press conference. He was big on the bros, and we talked about in the media room yesterday. They're the good kind of bros, not the condescending bros.
Yeah, bro sometimes can be up there with bub, right? Yeah. Where it feels negative, pal. It feels like pal, like chief. They go, okay, don't bro me if you don't know me, and like, but these definitely felt like, no, we are your bros. Like Dalton has this very, and I think since he's gotten here, has a very like open, welcoming personality, and it certainly has meshed with this group of guys, and they'll go forward together again. Speaking of personalities that mesh, Trey Hendrickson has not totally meshed with everyone in Cincinnati in the building, but Trey Hendrickson today, it could be his Freedom Fest. Like, I don't know, maybe we'll see him shooting fireworks off in Jacksonville or something like that as a celebration. I don't know wherever he's currently at. Training or fishing or whatever he's doing, getting ready for free agency. He has waited for years and years to be able to truly test the open market. And today at 4:00 is the last chance for the Bengals to say, no, we still have some control over you. As it stands now, I hate using definitives around the franchise tag because things can happen, especially in this case. There's no thought that Trey's coming back to play here next year. Like, I don't think anybody believes that to be the case, and nor will it. But again, we've talked a lot about the tag and trade scenario and where it's at. We're just at now the point that either they're going to do it or they're not. It does not appear that they're going to. That does not appear to be the competition for his services to the point that people would be willing to both pay Trey and give the Bengals a substantial trade offer. Now, those things can bubble up at the last second. I just don't anticipate that necessarily being the case. So it looks like we will have freedom and both sides moving about their lives potentially today at 4:00.
Yeah, Shark Week starts at 4:00 today. But I do wonder because, yeah, the Bengals have no leverage because everybody knows this divorce is coming. But there's going to be a lot of people bidding for Trey in free agency. So maybe some team does step up and come up with a really attractive offer that the Bengals can't refuse for a tag and trade. I don't anticipate that happening, but you can't totally rule it out because that would, a team that might have more assets in terms of draft picks instead of cap space, that could be a way for them to go. But you still, they would still have to work out a long-term deal. It's still going to cost them, but it's just not going to be the crazy open market taking bids from everybody.
And again, I feel like the only way that happens if something comes out of nowhere here at the 11th hour, because to this point, as we're talking right now, there has not been much of anything. I think the league is under the realization that you don't need to trade for Trey Hendrickson. If you're willing to go get him, you can go get him. The other part of it is like the edge market is really solid this year. Like there is a lot of good edges in the draft, in free agency, depth in the draft, depth in free agency. So the idea of Hendrickson being so far above the rest, when you consider the age and injury portion of this, that brings him a little bit back to the pack for what his production is. It's just, that's not necessarily the case where a team is going to freak out like it's Trey or nothing. That's what it needed to feel like. I think it needed to feel like Trey was on a tier all to himself, and there's nobody nearby or close to what you're getting from him. And I just don't think that that's necessarily the case here with Jalen Phillips or Odafe Owe or the top of this draft with some of the guys that those teams would have access to. It doesn't necessarily feel that way. And I think that's part of what has cooled his market a little bit, and left us at this position.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. We have covered Trey Hendrickson potentially, Jay, for the last time. A tear almost rolls down my eyes. I think about it. The Treys of our lives. It got us so much content, so many hours filled, so much fun that we had. And it's just sad to think that these could be our last parting words talking about Trey Hendrickson.
I mean, unless he goes to a team that the Bengals play next, there's 14 teams on the schedule next year. It's almost 50% chance that he will be back at some point playing against the Bengals. So we won't have to cover him, but it will be a storyline that week if that happens.
Yeah. Can I just one more time? I just want to just once more. There it is. Thank you. I need to go back and re-graders worthy the person that made this graphic for us that got us through so many nights, so many days, Treys of our lives. Katie and Trey together. I will truly never forget it. One of the great, we will bring it back, I guess, if they play against Trey Hendrickson next year, which only feels right that they do, right?
Yeah.
It only feels right that they do end up in some games against Trey. Thanks, Trey, for all that he gave to us. Nothing offers a more natural segue to our good friend and yours, Mo Egger, than saying thank you to Trey Hendrickson for all the content that he was able to provide us over these years.
First ballot ESPN 1530 Ring of Honor inductee. He will go into our Ring of Honor before he goes into the Bengals Ring of Honor. I woke up this morning and I'm like, you know what? Today's the last day. Today is probably the last day, and I'm not sure that I've completely processed this. The deadline to tag him is going to come and go while we're on the air. I don't know how we're going to commemorate it, but we've got to do something because this guy has propped up our radio station for the better part of 2 years, and we are going to miss him immensely. All we need from him is some sort of like parting shot out the door, or he goes to a team that plays the Bengals and there's some sort of content that we can get out of that. But Trey Hendrickson has been the gift that has kept on giving for a while. Also, he's the greatest free agent acquisition in the history of the franchise. But that's secondary to the content he has given us over the years.
What is the one place that, for your purposes of content, you want to see him go just to keep it rolling? It's got to be Baltimore, right?
It's got to be Baltimore. Yes, absolutely. I know I said to you a few weeks ago, he just feels like a San Francisco 49er to me.
Yeah.
For reasons that I maybe I can't even articulate. But yes, of course, we want him going to Baltimore, and then we need something crazy to happen when the Bengals play the Ravens. Obviously, I want the Bengals to win, but some sort of fight. Can I get a fight involving Trey Hendrickson and one of his former teammates? Can I get Trey versus Dalton Risner? You know, everybody's favorite current Bengal right now. Can I get something like that? Yeah, we need Trey as a Baltimore Raven. We need Trey in some high stakes games. We need Trey playing against the Bengals twice. We need Trey like going to the Ravens and then doing some weird stuff like, remember Freddie Freeman, the baseball player, left the Braves, went to the Dodgers on his own volition, by the way, and then for months was still complaining about the fact that he left Atlanta. We need Trey to like visually not be able to let Cincinnati go. And so that can happen anywhere, but if it happens with him playing for a division rival, all the better.
He did have a fight with Orlando Brown the first day of training camp that one year, and the dog on a leash. So there's a good shot of that.
I believe the day whenever he had the scratches across his neck, like
that was it.
Yeah. It's amazing.
You know what? Like what I want him to do is I want him to go to another team, but I want him to randomly show up in a Bengals like OTA practice just to talk to you guys. Just one of those. His now former team is practicing over here, and they're all like, "The hell's he doing here?" And he just stands there. And remember when Mike Bone, the former athletic director at UC, Mike Bone left to go to USC. And we were told like, hey, it's Mike Bone's last football game. He's going to be here if anybody wants to talk to him. And we were like, oh, say to him. So Mike Bone, the AD suite is in the booth next to us. Mike Bone's just walking around looking for someone to talk to. He goes down on the field. And by then, like everybody had moved on. He's sitting in the booth by himself after the game. And it's like, Mike, time to go, big boy. You're the AD at USC. Got to get to work. Got to go hire a coach. It's time to move on. I want something like that with Trey, where he just can't let it go, and he's showing up and he's around, and somebody has to tell him like, Trey, don't play for the Bengals anymore, man. You ought to hightail it to wherever you're playing now. I need something like that just to give me that like that dopamine fix that Trey Hendrickson content gives me.
I just need him to show up whenever they do play the Bengals, and his like arrival fit is the exact same ready for my tea time gear that he did when he showed up to the OTA practice to talk to. That's what I need. We didn't have, you're not at home.
No.
So we don't have the mini hoop for you to successfully make the layup, but the Bengals did make the layup yesterday and brought back Dalton Risner. Before we get to our free agent draft, I'll give you a chance to offer up your thoughts on the Bengals making a layup.
You got to make your layups before you can make your jump shots, and you got to make those before you make your threes. You have to do the easy stuff before you can demonstrate that you could do the hard stuff. And you, when you have a long to-do list, and the Bengals have a long to-do list, it makes no sense to add to it. So this was a no-brainer. And by the way, like, what an easy dude to root for.
Yeah.
And it was watching him yesterday, and it's like we're in this time where we're wondering, like, down the road, is Joe Burrow going to want to play here, and are players going to want to come here because apparently the treatment of families is really bad. And here you have a guy who, toward the end of an abjectly miserable season, was like, I'm in. I want to be here. Like, let's get it done. It's so refreshing. And it's refreshing to see the Bengals not take something really easy and complicated. This was passing a second grade test. Now the Bengals have some more difficult exams in front of them, free agency, the draft, some of their own guys, all of that. But I was encouraged by the fact that they didn't overly complicate something that seemed from the get-go to be pretty easy. And just and you wrote and talked about this, Paul, last week, it felt like it was moving in the direction that we wanted it to. And so to wake up yesterday morning and see the GIF from you, the guy making the layup, made me happy. It could have been a Bearcat or a Nick, but that's all right. I know what you did. You typed in layup GIF. That's the first one that popped up.
That's correct.
I'm aware how this works. That's all right. You were thinking of me, and that makes me happy.
I could have just sent you a picture of Adam H, but I didn't do that. I think of it like when you see these halftime contests where to win $100, you have to make a layup, a free throw, a 3-pointer, and a half court. I feel like this was the actual layup. I feel like linebacker and safety is like the free throw, and then the defensive line is going to be the 3-pointer, and then some sort of impact splash player is the half court. You're okay if you don't make the half court shot. You don't make the half court shot. No one's going to hate on you for that. You can obviously try it, but I think we're under the expectation that they can go out and hit the first three. Which brings us to what we're going to do today, which is going to be this free agent draft. And I was explaining, as Jay and I were talking about at the top, like we have very loose rules, which I think is kind of, if people familiar with the show are well aware that we're pretty loose with our rules here. But we're going to try to do a draft where we say who we kind of think the Bengals are going to pick. But if some rules need to be broken for the sake of something you want to talk about, then we are fully open to all of that. And so we'll do that and see where it ends up. We'll see how many rounds we go. I've got it plotted for 3, but if it goes 1, it goes 1. If it goes 2 and we're like, okay, we're done, we're done. I'm willing to let these things die on their own volition. And Jay, I'll let you start it off. Okay. Give me your first pick for who you think the Bengals will sign in free agency.
I think it might be unanimous. And also, if we were just drafting positions, I think safety would be the clear number one. But there's so many good safeties available that it's hard to pick the right guy there and try to. If the goal of this exercise is to get them right. So, and you and Charlie talked about this guy, but I just think he's a slam dunk. Leo Chenal, the Kansas City linebacker, just the way they move him around, all that he can bring, the toughness, that little bit of grit in the neck that this defense can use, the fact that he doesn't miss tackles, and he's young and he's ascending. He's played 4 years in this league. I think he only missed 3 games the last 3 years. He's got every single thing that you want in a guy, a couple rings. It just feels like a slam dunk. He feels like he would be a great fit here. And that's what you're looking for is, number one, a guy, the force multiplier, all that kind of stuff. But also at that position, a veteran to put in that group with the 2 young linebackers, with Demetrius Knight and Barrett Carter. Unless somebody comes and drops a ton of money on him, it just feels like the perfect fit. He'll be 26 mid-season. He's still got a lot of quality in your prime football left to play.
If you're checking the reality boxes, he's my number one on my list, so I'll cross him off. He fits the players the Bengals traditionally go for in terms of age, in terms of profile, and he's a exact fit. It was almost like they were talking about him when they were talking to us about the need to add the combo linebacker last week. It's exactly the type of player that they're looking for. I think he's going to get paid. I think he's going to have multiple suitors after him because he is the type of guy you want to sign in free agency. I'm curious how far up the Bengals will be willing to go to get him, maybe is the bigger part of this, because I think he'll have more suitors than people recognize.
Yeah, 126 linebackers had at least 1,200 snaps the last 3 years. Chenal's 5.2 missed tackle percentage is 12th best among those 126. That should be music to Bengal fans' ears.
Mm-hmm. Was also my number one, and what stood out to me, I printed out, Paul, the Athletics free agency rankings, top 10 players per position. There's Leo Chenal at number 10. What stood out to me was the projected contract of 3 years, $24 million, and I laughed out loud at that because that seems a little, for a guy who's going to have a market, that seems a little low. 25 years old.
That they gave Gesicki. He'd be way more valuable than Gesicki.
It's the Zach contract they give every free agent they sign ever. It's Hilton, it's Bell, it's Gesicki. Like, they love 3 years, 24. It's like that's their number.
So, like, my point being, I'm like, Okay. I mean, there
Yeah.
it is, because I was looking for things that fit them, what they do. There's all the talk of force multipliers, which I'm still not entirely sure what that means. There's versatility. There's what they need at linebacker. There's the kind of players that you could tell Barrett Carter and Demetrius Knight to attach themselves to. But I'm looking at, like, what's it going to cost? Because, you know, they have a lot of money, a lot of cap space, but they have a lot of players they got to go get. So it's like, what's the sort of contract that makes sense for them? And they're at the bottom of the list of linebacker is 3 years, 24 mil. And it just was like, boom, there it is. Now, I laughed because of that. I also laughed because if we believe he's going to have that many suitors, then I think that price is going to go up. But the very first thing I thought was, like, 3 and 24 is right in their wheelhouse. So let's go.
Yeah. All right. You have the number 2 pick, Mo. Then where are you going?
I'm going to go on the defensive line. I'm going to take Logan Hall.
Okay.
I'm going to take
He was
Logan
my number
Hall.
4.
I'm going to take Logan Hall, who's an interior defensive lineman, but is built like an edge guy. So a lot of talk of versatility, a lot of talk of inside guys that you can kick to the outside. Also, 25 mil over 3 years. So
Yeah. $1 million too high, maybe.
So, and a guy who last year, like, the price comes down a little bit because he wasn't as productive in 2025 as he was in 2024. I think he had 4 fewer sacks. I believe he had a few fewer quarterback hits. And so, like, the Bengals are always, and a lot of teams are, looking for value, somebody who it's like, all right, we can get him at a discount because maybe he wasn't quite as good. And we could put him in a system that allows him to play both inside and out. Pass rush is king. And among all the things that have been said by Duke, by Al, by Zach, the thing that reverberates the most is pass rush is king. And so I started by looking up front, and Logan Hall was because I didn't go first. Logan Hall ends up being my first pick.
And Logan Hall is a guy that they really liked in the draft. I mean, I remember him being a big part of the conversation. I believe he was a pre-draft visit. They liked him. And so when you have that too, that base of a guy who maybe could be ascending player, I think he's the opposite of Chanel for me, in that I think that sounds high for him. I don't know that he's gonna get that, because now, granted, the defensive tackle market isn't great, but how many teams are viewing him as a true defensive tackle? I don't know. He's built a little different than that. And so I'd be curious to see what his mark is, because he never really came in to be anything that they wanted him to be in Tampa. So I don't know how high that number is going to go. And if it goes lower than that, then I think the chance increases probably dramatically that you ended up with a hit there. I'll go ahead, Jay.
Well, I was just gonna say he played a career high 610 snaps last year, and he also had a career high in pressure percentage, 9.4. He's another guy that is ascending. He was the number 33 pick. They went with Dax Hill because they needed the Jesse Bates insurance. And you're right. I thought that he would be in play there. And talking about his versatility, he had 115 snaps at left tackle, 106 at right tackle, 201 on the left edge, and 182 on the right edge. He is literally a guy that just moves all up and down that line, and it takes you back to the force multiplier conversation. And I mentioned it. I don't know if you heard me, but when Mo picked him, he was number 4 on my list.
Yeah. Versatility without substitution, the other phrase that we heard ad nauseum last week. All right. I'm going to try to nail this linebacker thing. So under the world where Chanel goes and they don't land him, I see Caden Ellis sitting right there. And he is the other guy that's the exact profile they were looking for, except now he's older, but add the C on his chest, captain, played 1,000 snaps each of the last 3 years, high pressure rate, can really bring it off the edge. He adds more leadership than Chanel necessarily, but a little bit more age. I think that's a wash. I just think that if they came away with either of those two guys from free agency, they would be happy. And I'm more worried about Chanel ending up outside of their range than anything else. So, and Ellis is going to have a market too. I just think he's going to come away and be viewed as a little bit underappreciated in Atlanta, and teams will view him differently. So I'll go with Ellis just in trying to hit, because I think one of those two guys feels like they're going to be Bengals.
Yeah, he had a 5.7 missed tackle percentage, 21st best among all those guys that had 1,200 the last 3 years. And he never missed a start. 17 starts in 3 straight years. Just one of those guys that was he a seventh? Yeah, he was 7th round pick, I believe. And he had 1 start in his first 3 years, and now look where he's at. I mean, he's a guy that is on the rise, and I had him high on my list as well.
All right, Jay, back to you at the top of round 2. Where are you going?
So this one is a little. When you look at what Daniel Popper had for his market value, and then you look at Spot Rack, what they have for theirs, and they're all over the place. They're not close at all. But this guy, I just Jonathan Franklin Myers. He's another guy that plays on the edge, can play at tackle. 12.9 pressure percentage the last 2 years. The Spot Rack contract value is 2 for 16, which is basically 3 for 8. You just chop off, or 3 for 24. You just chop off a year. I don't think it's going to be that cheap. Daniel Popper had him at 3 for 54. Maybe that's a little rich for the Bengals, but I mean, if you get him at 2 for 16 or even a little more than that, he's actually cheaper than BJ Hill. They're about the same age. The other thing we joke about it, maybe there is some truth to it, that the guys that play well against the Bengals are the ones that they want to go get in free agency. His best PFF grade in 2025 was the Monday night game against the Bengals. His best PFF grade in 2024 was his game against the Bengals, the overtime game. There's just and another connection here is he was actually drafted by the Rams. Zach Taylor knows him. Zach Taylor was on that staff when they drafted Jonathan Franklin Myers.
I've been going JFM.
JFM, yeah, there you go.
Him, yeah.
But he's another guy that he goes to the Super Bowl as a rookie. He gets to the AFC Championship game last year. I don't know that he's quite to the age yet where he's ring chasing, but I kind of what Dalton Risner was saying is that this is going to be an attractive landing spot for guys, and just the connections. If all the D linemen that are out there, if his market does shrink some, I could see him being a guy they would bring in.
I got to tell you, I think he is maybe the biggest beneficiary of this free agency period, and then a guy that's just going to get overpaid because of the scarcity at the position. Like there just aren't pass rushing defense tackles. There just aren't. They're not out there. There's one guy that has good analytics and tape and is young enough to come in and make an impact, the type of guys that you want to sign. And, was sort of around a bunch of other guys in Denver that were, I think, helping augment his numbers as well. But I mean, he is the type of player that the Bengals would absolutely go for. I just don't see them. I think he's going to get so overpaid. And that's not disrespect to him. I just think he's that people have all this money. The cap went up more than he even thought. He's the only guy at this position everybody wants. And I just think it's just the numbers are going to run up. It's like when we saw Christian Wilkins signed for almost 30 and Milton Williams went for 26. Like when we had him projected in the 20s, I'm not going to say he's going to go that high, but I just think it's going to be much, much higher than people think. And that's the only thing keeping me, because the Bengals would love to pay him. I would imagine, but I just think that they're going to have to get in line, and they're probably not going to go to the top of the market. Mo, what do you got?
So the way I kind of looked at some of these players is we talk about things that reverberate, and Zach Taylor talking about how like they view older players differently than they have in the past, right? I mean, that was a big theme from the combine last week. I don't have the specific quote in front of me, so I'm looking at linebackers who are on the other side of 30, and the first name that jumped out to me was Alex Anzalone. But there seems to be a lot of smoke with him reuniting with Aaron Glenn. And then I know when we did this pod a number of weeks ago, we did the mock off season, and I had the Bengals getting Bobby Wagner, which would be my dream come true. Mainly because it'd be cool if they had more players closer to my age. I didn't do that though. And instead I took Caden Ellis of the Atlanta Falcons.
I already took Caden Ellis. Is this like a bad fantasy football bit? Taken.
Right. So like I'm going down the list here. I'm looking for 30-year-old linebackers. I wasn't done. So then I'll stumble on Alex Singleton, right?
There you
Because like I feel like at that position they're going to lean in on age and experience, and they're going to lean in on force multipliers, a guy who you can count on to be in the right position, and again attached to the two young linebackers they had last year. I think I said to you that I was going to hurt myself if I heard this past week, that they were comfortable just letting Barrett Carter and Demetrius Knight do their thing again. It feels like that's not likely. They're leaning in on age. They're okay signing older players. I'm looking for a linebacker on the other side of 30. Alex Singleton was the next best available option for me, since you took the guy that I wanted to take, and the guy before him is probably going to go to the Jets. So I went with Alex Singleton, formerly soon here of the Denver Broncos.
Let me just say this, Mo, as the league evolves, I'm happy you've evolved as well, because if there's one thing that I remember vividly about many podcasts and radio shows that I have done with you, is how much you love making fun of the Bengals 30-plus-year-old linebacker carousel that they have been on over the years. Carlos Dansby and A.J. Hawk and all of those guys that would cycle through here in Cincinnati. And here you are saying, give me a 30-plus-year-old linebacker. I'm just proud of your growth.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting there late last night looking at all the linebackers with a 3, right, as the first digit in their age. And part of it is, like, you have to take your cues from what is being said by the Cincinnati Bengals, right? They're telling you age doesn't matter nearly as much. They're looking for experience at that position because they got burned by youth last year. And so, like, look, man, in an ideal world, I'm not starting my free agency search with players whose best years are probably behind them. But you are where you are. And again, you have to take into consideration what came out of the mouths of people in a decision-making capacity. And they talked about, like, all right, the way we look at older players is changing. And so if that's the case, the way I look at older players has to change. I think we all acknowledge, like, the downside. Like, what if a guy's, aging process accelerates and you're stuck with a guy who's slower than you need him to be, not as athletically gifted as he once was, and you got an old guy out there on the field. But I think, given where they are at that position, given what they're trying to get at linebacker, given the younger players, the guys who are entering their prime, they clearly would like to build around. You've got to look for older players. And so there is something prototypical about the Bengals when it comes to this, because there's that long line of old linebackers they've signed in the past. I will hold my nose and do it again because it's almost a necessity to do it here.
And if there's one position on defense where age isn't as important, I think it is linebacker. And Al talked about this too, about how he's never blitzed or done stunts as little as he did last year. And that's because you've got young guys, and Demetrius Knight isn't young, but he was new. He's a rookie, Barrett Carter, and you don't have those guys to kind of make the calls on the field. You can't always call those, and then before the team breaks the huddle, and then you're thrown when they come out in a formation you're not expecting. And so getting a guy that has experience, that's seen and done a lot, even if he is on the other side of 30, it makes sense at that position. I wouldn't want him to do it with a safety or an edge or anything like that, but at linebacker, you can stomach it.
I will hop in and make this quick, because I'm just trying to make sure that I say this guy's name in every single podcast that I'm on, and that's Draymond Jones, who is, he's 29. He plays inside, outside. He's solid pass rusher. He's going to give you 7 to 10 sacks and 40 to 50 pressures. He's versatility without substitution. So many of these things. I talked about him on the show with Charlie, and you can see the different ways that he gets pressure. He does it standing up. He can do it with his hand down. He's played inside. Like, he just is a nice fit next to Shamar in terms of it alleviates pressure from Shamar. It allows them to maybe play off of each other. They can do more of the line stunts and things like that Al was talking about. Just like him, mentioned him. I would say, Charlie mentioned Boye Mafe as well. I would be standing here looking at those two, the two guys that we both talked about as our free agent fits on that show. are 1 and 2 here for me, because I think you get a lot of good stuff. And Mafe is definitely the type of fit that the Bengals have seen. Is there anybody else you guys want to make sure you mention, Jay? We can quickly tap through these and get Mo out of here. Anybody else you wanted to pick or mention? Make sure got mentioned.
Well, a half court shot, Odafe Owe. I think that he's gonna cost a lot, but he's another guy that has had huge games against the Bengals. He actually has a better pressure percentage against the Bengals than TJ Watt does. So he's one, if they are going to spend a lot, he could be in play. But I have to break a rule. I mean, that's kind of, it's in my nature. And
2 yard.
If the guy played for the Bengals this year, but then they don't sign him before free agency starts, is he technically a free agent? Because then he's open to everybody. I mean, could they bring back Joseph Osai if his market craters and he's a guy you've drafted, you've developed, they love everything about him personality wise. He is ascending. I just think if all the money goes elsewhere and you can get him, I can't remember if it was Daniel Popper or Spot Rack, but one had him at 3 years, 33 million. And you get him at 11 a year. You paid him 7 last year. I mean, he's not the difference maker, but he is a guy that can move inside, the force multiplier, all that kind of stuff. I just wonder if his market kind of isn't where he expects it to be, if there could be a reunion there.
I thought for a second you were going to say Geno Stone.
That would have been a half-court heave on your hat, your earphone.
That would have
it'd be a personal affront.
That would have been an own goal. I for a second, man, I thought that's where you were going.
Can I just?
I haven't been gone that long.
We're doing our free agency live shows every week next week. If the Bengals sign Geno Stone, I just request that I can get you to immediately pop on live with us and just give me your gut reaction. I need the initial instinct.
You want it now? I'll just give it to you now. Okay.
No, I don't need it. I don't need it now.
And you can have it at the standby. Okay, I mean, because it's not going to change. It will be profane, so you can warn the audience. I mean, we can lay it down now, and you could just have it at the ready.
No, that's okay. It's all right. We'll just let people imagine. Did you have anybody else you wanted to get to, Mo?
Kobe Bryant, man.
Yeah, there it is.
So
I was waiting for you to pick a Bearcat.
Well, Brian Cook and Kobe Bryant, but Brian Cook is kind of what Al Golden described Jordan Battle as being, closer to the box safety. And, if there was one guy that it felt like got the ringing endorsement of the organization last week, it was Jordan Battle. So, Al's like, but if maybe there's somebody we can play in the slot here and there, that's Kobe Bryant. Now, I know we're supposed to do who we think they will draft instead of who we want them to draft. I know as soon as they sign a safety, you're going to have folks who go, well, wait a minute, then they're not going to draft Caleb Downs. I don't know why having those two players would preclude you from taking him, but Kobe Bryant started as a corner, was an elite corner at UC. They've moved him to safety in Seattle. He prevents big plays and he makes plays. And I think there's still a real sense that his best ball is still in front of him. 27 years old, sort of in the second tier of available safeties. Again, there is a big part of me that's talking with my heart here, but as I listen to Al Golden talk about Jordan Battle and what he is, and in the back of my mind, there's 2 former Bearcat safeties who I just loved at UC. All right, well, they kind of already have a version of Brian Cook, although I think Brian Cook's a better player. All right, well, what about Kobe? Kobe Bryant's exactly what Al Golden said they might be in the market for. Again, it doesn't necessarily feel likely, I guess. But if that's what you're looking for, like Al Golden described what Kobe Bryant has been in Seattle the last 2 years at least. And again, he's a safety, but he's got extensive corner experience. Versatility is key. So I had Kobe Bryant on my list. I'll just give you my top 5 in no major particular order of players that I wanted. Like John Franklin Myers, it was relieved to hear you say that because I've been operating under the assumption that's not possible. Then I went Logan Hall. I can't read my handwriting for the next guy. Boye Mafe, I had pretty high on my list. And then I started to look at safeties and I kept coming back to I kept coming back to Kobe. So might not be likely. I'm speaking with my heart, but he is what Al Golden said they could be in the market for.
Yeah, I don't hate that. The only name I'll throw out there is the other name that I threw out there on the free agent fit, and that's Minka, who's not a free agent yet. He's a splash that you can see. And when we're still trying to figure out exactly what force multiplier means, I think it means him. Like he's the one that makes everybody around him better. We know the respect they have in the building for him. We know he would play well opposite anybody, and including Jordan Battle, and certainly wouldn't preclude you from taking Caleb Downs and that type of thing. I love the idea of Minka here in Cincinnati. Whether that happens, I'm under the assumption he's going to get released. What does his number look like? How willing are they to go there? Feel the type of player they would go for. So we'll see. All right, Mo, you're off to spring training, right?
Tomorrow night.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
two more days of work.
2 more days of work that you will. Are you going to do it like most of us do when we're about to do something like go away to spring training for a few days and phone it in?
I've been doing that since last week. You kidding me?
Well, I look
there wasn't
forward
enough
to phoning it in
saliva
with you today.
Wasn't enough saliva for the stamp I put on the envelope last week. I mean, my wife actually asked me the same question last night. She's like, those next 2 shows are going to be good. I'm like, did you listen to the one today? Like, you could almost see half of my ass being off the stool, being halfway out the door. Yes, we have 2 more before I depart for Arizona. And
does that just start with a welcome into today's show, and we'll open up the lines?
Yeah,
and just that's just how is that how we or is that not your method for properly phoning it in?
We have a guy who wrote a book about Larry Bird on the show tomorrow. That's all that.
I'm excited.
Hey, you want to come on? Yeah, sure, man. Larry Bird guy, let's do it. 5:33. You're the guy. Let's go.
Love it. Mo, appreciate it. I will see you this afternoon on ESPN 1530.
I can't wait. Jay, great to see you, man. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Have a good one. Thanks again to Mo Egger for hopping in and joining us. And I got to tell you, wasn't really personally invested in anything that was going to happen in Bengals free agency before, but now really want him to re-sign Geno Stone. Not going to lie. Just strictly so that we can get that reaction on tape. That's what I'm hoping for.
How many blows his stack gifts are there available on Giphy? Like you could have.
I'm positive we could find some. I can probably find some old Mo reactions from previous shows that we can maybe splice together into a montage that we could play on top of it all. I like that. Mo's on his way to spring training. He's going to be going out there and hanging out and having a couple of pops watching the Reds for a few days, which he does every year. Maybe he'll say hi to Charlie. Power Stacks rocking. BG even went out there and joined him. They did a live from Arizona this past week. So if you haven't seen, the shows have been incredible. You can't be more prepared for the Red season. If you're listening to Stacks, they are cranking it out right now. Great stuff. Make sure you are subscribed to wherever you get your podcasts, and definitely to their YouTube channel with stuff popping up there. That show is growing, and I think everybody's recognizing how good it is. 5-star rating everywhere for a reason, because it's an awesome show. Highly recommend it if you are a Reds fan at all. And of course, Charlie's takes are not going away. You know, he's got plenty of them, and he'll be hopping in on our free agency shows next week as well. All right. Speaking of our free agency shows, I got a Bengals Growler bet, Jay. And we've done this before, and we haven't done a Growler bet in a while. We haven't had you here do our Growler bet. So I was like, we got to, this is a perfect opportunity to do this one, pull this one off the shelf. I think we need to do a Growler bet of the timing, like literal time of the Bengals' first outside free agent signing. Okay, so once the tampering window opens Monday at noon, what is the timestamp? We'll just call it tweet timestamp as reported, like really reported, not something fake or like what. I mean, I'm talking probably like a Schefter, Ian, Pelissero, Diana, or me or you, first person to put it out there, report on an outside free agent signing. Then
wife.
What's that?
A wife?
A wife. I'll count a wife. Like I would say a true source. Like we're saying that was when it was official in our minds. what is the exact time and day of that? What should our buffer be here, Jay? This is the question. This is where we decide how nice we're feeling. Are we feeling in a giving mode right now, or are we trying? I think we should be giving.
You want to make it complicated and say you get a 15-minute buffer on Monday, a 10-minute buffer on Tuesday, and a 5-minute buffer. Well,
I would go the
small.
opposite. I would make it a smaller, but I would say 10, maybe 10, 20, and 30. So 10 minutes on Monday, 20 minutes on Tuesday, and 30 minutes if it's Wednesday. Man, if it's Wednesday, the growler bet won't matter. People have keeled over. They're just hyperventilating. They don't have time for podcasts. Like it's going to be total chaos in the streets. They're not going to care about whatever we're giving, which Graders Shipper, I think, is what we do. I think we're going Grader Shipper. It's Graders worthy if you can nail this without question. So 6 pints of Graders sent directly to your front door on the dry ice. All the glory. It's so good. We will do that. So let's do it. Send in the Growler Podcast at gmail.com your submission for the exact time and day that the Twitter timestamp gives you on the Bengals outside free agent signing, their first outside free agent signing. So I think it can be done. What time do you think, Jay? Are you going to go Kappa and Karras on me?
Yeah, I think they've got the money, they've got the urgency, and they've got the failures of 2025 rattling around in their heads. I think they do it early. I think Cap and Karras were within the first hour. I'm going to go
It was like 10 minutes. It was like 12:10.
I'm going to go 12:45 Monday.
Okay. Ooh. I see free agency is so hard to predict. Sometimes, occasionally it's like that, but then I'm like, they'll do something Monday though. And I feel like it may be a few smaller items. It may not be the bigger. Sometimes those last until Tuesday night. But I'll say Monday. I'll go Monday at 4:30. How about that? Monday at 4:30, we get our first drop from the Bengals. But you're right. I would say if I was let's run pass or boot first major signing. Like, well, let's say more than 7 per year. Like if I was run pass or booting that, I would probably go in the order of day. I would say I think it's more likely Monday than Wednesday. Where sometimes it goes the opposite. I'm with you. I feel like there's gonna be aggression and calculated players they're pinpointing early with a Kappa Karras feel to it. I'm with you on that.
Yeah, because even if you go mid-tier, that's in that range of more than 7, and they couldn't do what they don't normally do and just overpay a little bit and just say, we want you. We don't want anybody else to jump in on this. And so I would probably go the same, run Monday past Tuesday and boot Wednesday.
I just ask that everybody just be calm if they don't. I know you won't, but like it's just I understand. Just remember it. Sometimes it does go longer, and sometimes it is Tuesday night. But I know Marco Wilson Tuesday, and shout out to Marco on this Marco Wilson Tuesday for him, his birthday. But like, it can be a little nervous. And so let's just everyone try to stay calm, and I look forward to everyone not following that advice at all. I did have one other bit of news that we didn't talk about at the top, and it looks like Atlanta is going to be going to Madrid, playing a game in Madrid. So Jay, add now 2 potential international games. Of course, the Bengals haven't played international since 2019, Zach Taylor's first season, when they fell to, I believe, 0-8 against the Rams. The Commanders are also they're playing in London next year. Bengals are on our opponents in Atlanta, opponents in Washington. So they are on the list of teams that could be selected to be their opponent in either Madrid or London. London, which would be a rematch of the 10 years ago.
Yeah.
The great tie, which would be fun to bring that one back. Although I am rooting for Madrid because I'm ready to go. Never been to London a couple of times. I'm ready. I'm in for Madrid. There's options though. There's certainly on a short list of teams that could be the opponents in those games.
I need to go follow the Madrid mayor on Twitter because he was the one that broke it.
Oh yeah, he was all over
year.
it. Yeah, so do the whatever he says, the opposite at this point. Yeah, we're
it
back
is
to Spanish mayor season.
It is interesting because with Atlanta, of their 9 opponents, 6 are already scheduled for international games this year, or 3 are already. So that leaves 6 possibilities. And I know it's not impossible for teams to go back to back, but the Chiefs are another team that's playing out Atlanta this year, and they just went overseas last year. So, and they do kind of lean into these interconference games. And so then you're looking at, if that's the case, if it's going to be AFC versus NFC, it's Baltimore, Cincinnati. It's not stamped in stone, but I think there's a really good chance that one of those two, the Bengals, will be overseas.
Yes, and as we've said more than a few times here, they will be playing an international game next year. They are locked into that, giving up a home game in 2027 to play an international. And it's not unforeseen with so many international games. We have 9 international games this year. I mean, we're getting closer to the point that everybody has one, which at this point, I feel like that's just what they should do. You should just have everybody has 8 home, 8 road, and 1 international. Like, I don't know. That just feels like where this should go. Or 1 neutral.
Yeah.
But that's just my own. I just think it's the best way for competitive balance, for growing the game in different places. They're going to all these different places. They're damn near there. So just add in a few more and go from there. But maybe we'll see it. I'm excited. I would love to go to Madrid this year. That would be awesome. Yeah. Okay, what else do we got left? I think we've pretty much touched on everything we wanted to get to. Again, reminder to everybody, we have Who Dey Like coming later this week with Mark. That will be the final chance to set the stage for free agency. And then next week, we are into the free agency live, the walkouts every night, Monday through Thursday, live on YouTube. So make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. We will be going on there, myself, Jay, Charlie, Mark, Mo, whoever drops in. We don't know who could drop. I think Gridiron Greg's going to drop in one night. Like, whoever wants to hop on in will be hopping in, and we'll be breaking down everything that happened that day. Those will also post in your audio feed next morning. But if you want to watch live and hang out and ask questions and see where we go, those things, man, we filled some time last year. So it can't possibly be harder than last year, right? 4 hours of nothing to talk about. This year, I really do feel like we're going to have something. So, but I'm really looking forward to those. Those are next week. Every night we'll be going live. So keep your eye open for that. Just make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel as well as into the audio feed for those.
If they don't do anything the first 2 days, I'm doing Who Dey Nights from the Avenue at the Queen of Hearts draw, and we can just get all the angry fans on and get all their thoughts on why they haven't done anything.
I love it. I think that's what it would deserve at that point. Jay just handing the mic to different people at the bar. I'm for it. Okay. A.R.B.I.E.S. We haven't had A.R.B.I.E.S in a while, and I like this. I'll start off. I haven't an actual A.R.B.I.E.S, and this is something that we mentioned on the show where we were talking about. Mark and I were talking about how, Jay could be actually out here booking concerts apparently, because in Daytona, Jimmy Eat World actually played inside an A.R.B.I.E.S, had a concert inside an A.R.B.I.E.S in Daytona, Florida, and I was like, this feels like a premonition. I feel like this is an incredible, perfect fit side hustle for you, Jay, to do if you ever wanted to. Just book A.R.B.I.E.S concerts. And then someone tweeted out, hey, I know the person that runs the Eastgate A.R.B.I.E.S. Let's go. I'm like, all right, this is our in. This is where it starts. I think this is the chance, Jay. I think you need to take the lead here, and let's book the first concert at the Eastgate A.R.B.I.E.S. The question is, who would it be? I came up with, if Blessed Union of Souls can play the St. Cecilia Festival and Crush, by the way, loved it, then they can play the A.R.B.I.E.S at Eastgate. Let's go. Let's book them. I'm putting that. Give them a call, Jay. Let's make this happen.
That's what it would be as a band, because it was Jimmy Eat World down in Daytona, a band that hasn't been around much, kind of looking for gigs. I had mentioned Walk the Moon, and you gave me a how dare you, basically, that they're too big for Arby's. Are they
Big
though?
time,
I
how
mean,
dare
have they
you.
done anything since?
Are they though? Yes, they are. Don't you do this to Walk the Moon. Look, I mean, they've had they've had more big hits than Jimmy Eat World ever dreamed of, okay? And far more recently. They just recently broken up. Just leave Walk the Moon out of this, okay? They're my people. All right. I don't like that. What do you got for Arby's for me?
So it was weird. I didn't remember how I left my desk at the stadium. You know, it was I left the weekend or the week before they went to Miami for that game. And if it's a home game, you know, you have to clean up your desk, and because there's going to be photographers sitting at your desk. But I was like, I haven't been in the stadium since mid-December. How did I leave my desk? Was it clean? Well, I got there yesterday and it was clean. There was one thing on my desk, and it was a letter, and it was addressed to P.J. Combs, the media relations director, but then in care of Jay Morrison. I was like, what is this? And I opened it up, and it was a full page handwritten letter from 3 fans of the podcast who said it's appointment listening, that they are out of town. They're Cincinnatians, but they moved out of town. They love the show, and they had heard about Nikki, and they wanted to do something for me. And so there was an Arby's gift card in there with the letter. And one of the paragraphs in the letter said, "We wanted to go as far as to say that your reporting is as reliable and enjoyable as a meal from Arby's." And so it was really nice of them. It really kind of made my day to see that. It was a Jordan Hill, Andrew Kerman, and Ryan Smith. And I can't thank you guys enough. I can't thank everybody enough for everybody that's reached out, messages, texts, gifts, gift cards, it's just been amazing. It's been overwhelming. And that I was a little wondering. I wondered how it was going to be at the combine, if it was going to be emotional with everybody coming up to me my first day back. And then same thing yesterday at the stadium. And that just walking in and seeing that on my desk just made my day. So thank you guys.
Nothing makes everything better than an Arby's gift card. It really is the key to unlock anything that you need. You know, just always start there and work out. That's what it is. That's always it. Thanks to everybody that has sent stuff in, that has contributed to the GoFundMe, which is going to be awesome to see that being used for the scholarship, and all the meals at Arby's that are now in Jay's future. Not that they weren't going to be anyway, but now he doesn't have to pay for them. This is even better. Jay, this is awesome having you back.
Yeah, great to be back.
The Bengal Boy song is sticking around. Reunited. It feels so good. Happy to be back, and we're deep in it now. This is like straight into the fire. You're like Dalton Risner in Cleveland. Okay, you're going straight from the field right back into the middle of the fire, and Myles Garrett's across from you because it's free agency, and Bengals fans have been anticipating next week for a long time, and we will be here for you every single night. So we hope to talk to you guys then. Of course, Who Dey Light coming your way later this week. And on that note, we are out of here. Thanks everybody for watching and for listening. Have a good one.